Hello, everyone from Chelsea Fan TV. I hope you're all doing very well. Welcome back to another live stream. We've got the evening show today with myself and Kev. We're going to be talking all things Chelsea. We're going to talk about the Copenhagen game, the 1-0 win against Copenhagen at Stamford Bridge. We're going to talk about some transfer news as well. I can't believe that we are talking about transfer news, but there is a new update with regards to Geovany Quenda, who Chelsea have signed for about £40 million. And we're also going to be talking a bit about the Arsenal game and Chelsea as a whole. So big up to everyone that's watching. Subscribe if you haven't already to the channel. And let's get straight into it. I mean, how are you doing, Kev? And what's
good, man.
What's your thoughts around the club at the moment?
This is it, isn't it, man? We've signed that many under-18 players, underage players the last few months. It's no surprise that we're spending doing the same things. And but the guy that we signed from Portugal, that Quenda, is very highly rated, I'm hearing. Man United was very close to getting him, and obviously we came in and we've got it through last minute, so potentially could be good news, but that's the way of the model now. There's nothing changing it. That's it. That's all it is now. But it's good where the players that we're bringing in, the caliber of talent, is very good because these are top end, world class, elite players. So if they can come into Chelsea and do well in a few years' time, we're looking at some good players that we're bringing in. If they can mature into a big club and stuff, but it's only time will tell. But for now, it's not good news. But for the future, it may be.
I mean, I'll be honest with you, mate. I'm totally shocked. First of all, I can't believe that. I mean, I can't believe that Chelsea have even signed a player, let alone for 40 million. Like, this just goes on to highlight the fact that the frustrations that a lot of fans have had about the lack of short-term signings in terms of getting our team going now. Like, if we don't go out in the summer and buy some players, ready-made players, ready to go, I mean, we're just giving up on the season, mate. I mean, I said this. I was speaking to fans outside the stadium after Copenhagen, and they said to me, and at halftime as well, they said, Alex, if we played against a Champions League side, like in the Champions League with the squad that we have, like, what would happen? So I'll ask you, Kev, like, what do you think would happen if we played in the Championship with the squad we have?
In the Championship?
Oh, sorry, Champions League.
Champions League. We wouldn't have got this far. We would have struggled to get at the first leagues, the new league group format. We would have struggled to get at that with the team we've got now. Let's be real. Simple as that.
I mean, when I look at the team as a whole, I just think that we need someone to lean on at times, and obviously Palmer has been that player for us. We've got Neto who stepped up defensively, really struggling to find leaders. I mean, Tossin's your oldest player. You've got James, who's not even a defender half the time; he's a midfielder. Cucurella, another reliable player. We've seen that when we spend money on players, we end up leaning on those players. We spend lots of money on Cucurella. He's our best defender. We spend a load of money on our midfield. Obviously, Caicedo and Fernandes are the players this team's going to be built around, and Lavia as well when he's fit. Even in terms of the wingers, like Neto, the most ready-made out of all of them. It's no surprise that the guy is clearly one of the players that Maresca wants to lean on, because not only, does he contribute in terms of the attacking phase, but defensively, he does everything. And, people ask question marks. Why doesn't Madueke do this? Why doesn't Sancho do that? I mean, you could argue Sancho has proved himself, but he hasn't done it consistently. And, there's no surprise why the question marks are there, because the players haven't proven themselves. So as much as I've heard good things about this guy, I'm not going to sit here and say that Quenda's a bad player. I've heard good things. And I think that Maresca's a big fan of him as well. It's always important for the manager and the player and the club to be on the same wavelength. It seems like that's the case with this signing. But what I'm not seeing at the moment is something to give the fan base a real confidence boost that, okay, all right, we are going somewhere next year. Even if we weren't to do well this season, we're going somewhere next year. Like we're building.
I actually really don't think it's going to happen again, Alex. I think Enquires is at the same club for £20 million more, but you've got your certain 50 goals a year in the form it's in now. You've got numbers with Enquires, yeah. But we go and get the youngster for 17 years old. I don't see what we're doing. I don't see what are we doing? Enquires is at the same club, but we're going for the youngest player in the team. It just doesn't make any sense. It just doesn't make any sense, brother. But that's the model now. It's not going to be changed.
You know, he's not even joining next season.
I know.
He's joining in 2 years, mate.
2026.
I mean, right. Let's try and give everyone sort of an update. This is one of the things that CFC Pies said. I'm not going to lie to you. I agree with what he's saying. He says, "Hey, Paul Winstanley and Lawrence Stewart. If you're shopping at Sporting instead of a 17-year-old to join in 2 seasons, how about the guy who has 56 goals in 57 games, including 6 and 8 in the Champions League, and at a great age for a striker, and he already played in England? Just a thought, guys. Oh, wait, that probably won't happen as his agent is not Jorge Mendes, and it is not easy to an easy deal to do like the one with Ipswich would be, which is implying that we're going to try and get Delap instead of Victor Gyökeres. So, I mean, do you think that's what's going to happen, Kev? Let me ask you that.
It must be. It's got to be now, isn't it? When you think about it, they've gone to the club that we've been linked with for their main player, but we go and get a youngster. You know, I don't think we're going to go in and do business with him again for Gyökeres. It's not going to happen. So we are probably going to go for Liam Delap over Gyökeres. It makes sense, but it doesn't make sense from a perspective of you getting elite. With Gyökeres, you getting elite. Delap's not elite. Delap is up and coming, so we're not going for elite anymore. That's what we haven't gone for elite for a while now. It's just always up and comers.
Yeah, I mean, Bobby makes a fair point as well. He says Chelsea fans still think we're getting players for trophies. We've got interest payments to make, chaps. Flip for profit FC. And I completely agree with you, Bobby. Although I have to say, mate, fucking 40 mil is not good business for a 17-year-old. I mean, what are we doing? We're gambling in the casino here. I mean, all right, if we would have said 14 mil, I would have been like, okay.
No, but he's top end. He's top end. He's meant to be top end quality. But that's what the model now.
2 years, Kev.
They'd rather spend 40 million on a 17-year-old than a 25-year-old. That's what it seems to me.
2 fucking years. That's ridiculous. It's not even a year, mate. And fair enough. Like, to be fair, I'm not even against those kind of signings. If you mix it with experience, I'm actually all for it. But if you don't put experience in there, then
there's nonsense, mate. There's zero experience coming in, Alex. This is it. Every single player that we're getting now are under the age of 18. That's it. Every player that we signed now, it's been under the age of 18. And I can't see it changing now. I really can't.
Yeah, I mean, Adamus Prime says, I think slowly I'm believing we're going to get Victor Gyökeres because we took 2 Sporting players away from them. We have a way in now. But the other option is we're just getting mugged off. That's the other option.
Yeah.
We're getting mugged off, man. I mean, I don't know if I'd agree entirely with that, but I respect the optimism. Chelsea Boy says it's getting too much at this point. They're going to leave us screwed in the end. He's talking about the ownership. Luke says, agreed, sign the top quality youth, but have a mixture with known quality too. So I feel like a lot of Chelsea fans are on the same page. Let's dive into this a little bit more, though, because this is something that's only unraveled recently. I mean, it's really fresh news. 10 hours ago, the Here We Go came out from Fabrizio Romano. We signed him secretly. Quenda said yes to the Chelsea project and Enzo Maresca's plans. United were in talks for Quenda for weeks, but FFP is one of the factors as to why they haven't been able to do anything. And Jorge Mendes has been mentioned as a big part to play in this Quenda to Chelsea story. So obviously we know that Chelsea have a great relationship with Jorge Mendes. He's the agent of João Felix, and he was one of the people that was able to get both deals done in terms of bringing him in and also sending him out on loan. We have a good relationship with Mendes, so whether that means much, I think ultimately it's just money talks. But it's nice to see that we've beaten United to a player that again is good. But it just raises the question: like this is 40 million, but what was the budget? Is this 40 million from 400? Is this 40 million from 100? If so, does that mean we only have 60 million left to spend on any players? So we only have one more signing that we can make, and we're going to spunk that on more young players. So that's what I would really like to know, is what kind of a situation are we in financially where we're able to just take that risk? Because it's a huge risk, Kev. You know, it's a massive risk, and it's not a cheap price for a 17-year-old, mate. Even 40 million for a 19-year-old, like, it makes you raise your eyebrows. It's like,
it's taken. It's. I just don't know what they're doing, bro. It's you got to think £40 million. You could have got yourself a world class centre back instead for next season. What we actually need: experienced, class, Champions League quality centre back. But we want to go and get yet another winger. How many wingers have we got now, bro? Like, think about it on the real. Like, how many wingers have we got now?
Too many fucking wingers, mate.
You can only play 2 wingers in the game, but we've got about 15.
He was a wing back, if I'm not wrong. But I mean, there's a little bit more to this, Kev. So I'll go up because there is more to this. Hang on, mate. I read this earlier on. Enzo Maresca thinks Quenda is perfect to play from as a winger, a crucial point on the player. Quenda no longer wants to play wing back. He wants to play one-on-one. So he's been a wing back, but he's basically changing his position. I mean, it's not a massive change, but it's a moderate change, isn't it? So I mean, basically, we're banking on the fact that he's going to perform well for us as a winger. Even though he doesn't have much experience playing as a winger at Sporting Lisbon.
I just don't get it. I think it's one of them signings that they need. Man United's interested. There's obviously been some speculation about Man United signing him. There's done some research on him. Now, Man United not getting him, we're going to get him. But we'll get him, and we're just loaning him out for 2 years. So, Man, you don't get him. That's what it looks like. Because why would you get a player and you know he's not going to City system anyway? It sounds to me, Maresca saying doesn't know what system he's going to play in as a left back or a left winger. He doesn't know yet. So what's the point of signing him? He's not going to sit in the system. I just don't know. It's one of them for the future, isn't it? But it's a lot of money.
All for the future, Kev. All of them. Who's for now? Who? Amugu?
No. I told you, every player we signed now is under 18 the last 3 months.
Look, so let's backtrack a little bit here. 40 million on a player who doesn't have a defined position and isn't even joining until the 26-27 season. Another deal where we are in bed with Mendes too. Then the club will tell you they run low on finances. No, you just spend them needlessly. So many other key positions need to be addressed with quality and experience. Just ridiculous. I have to agree. Again, I have to agree with it, mate. But listen, if the money is still there to be spent on experience, like, I don't have a problem with these signings, but the money has to run out at some point. And I know that Chelsea are in a fucking terrible financial situation. If you look at the numbers, they're public. You know, we have loaded so much debt onto the club, and the interest payments on that debt is fucking extortionate. 500 mil from the banks. Sorry, no, 700 million from the banks and 500 million from another private equity firm. Was it Axe or was it Ares Capital or something? Ares Capital. And the banks is about 4% interest, and Ares Capital is about 13, mate. Which means just to pay back Ares Capital, the 500 million that they owned when the club are allowed to sell in 2033, I think it is, that's 1.7 billion. Just the interest.
Wow.
So where is the money? Because that's the money for Ares Capital, mate. That's not even Clear Lake's money. We have to sell the club for such a high fee in order to make any profit. You know what the club would be valued in order for them to make like a genuine profit, like a basically triple their money. That the club would have to be valued at 9 billion, Kev.
Yeah. But the only way they're going to get to that level is with the stadium. They're going to have to do something with the stadium. Because the player situation right now, the amount of money we're spending on players and the losses we're taking as well, we're certainly not making no money for the player front. If we don't get Champions League again next season, look how much money we're losing there. We're losing a lot. I don't know where the money's coming from, but it's certainly not coming through players and revenue through Champions League football. It's coming from interest. I don't know what they're doing right now. I don't know. I literally don't. Because £40 million is a lot of money to spend at this point. Why not spend it in January? You're spending it we're just spending it now. Like the season's, it's not even the transfer window. We're spending £40 million on the players that are going to be here for 2 years. When you could have spent that in January and got a defender or a striker. So they must have had the money in the first place, brother.
Yeah. Apparently, we're also looking at bloody Dario Esugo, also owned by Sporting. My God, another Sporting player that we're looking at. No add-ons or sell-ons, so it's just a flat 40 million fee, no extra details to it. So it's nice to have a simple deal for once. We will touch on the other news as well, guys. We'll just stay on topic. But yeah, another club that was interested was Bayern Munich as well as Manchester United. After speaking with Maresca, that really helped him make his decision, Quenda. And yeah, he's a Chelsea player, but not for 2 years. So that's where we are at the moment, Kev. We're going to have a look at his stats as well.
Wow.
I mean,
he hasn't got no stats, bro. That's the thing. He's probably played good for about 6 months. And we spent 40 million. Seriously, brother.
Oh, oh, fucking hell, mate. I'll tell you what, though. Okay, if you look at Liga Portugal this season, now I recommend looking at transfer market, guys. I mean, oh God, yeah, Jesus, man. Let me just touch on what Bobby said as well. Bro, the bank's interest is 7.7%. You're not adding the Sonia rate to the spread. No, I'm not, to be fair, mate. So he says Sonia rate 4.45% plus the spread is 3.25%. So it's 7.7% with 700 million, which makes it even worse. So yeah, basically to go back to what we were saying, we are in big doo-doo with our financial situation. The only way we get out of that doo-doo is success does not pay your way out of that. Unfortunately, it's selling players for profit, higher ticket prices, just bringing in revenues from the fans, and that money has to come from somewhere. So they're gonna milk us, aren't they? Right. This is Liga Portugal 2024-25. So he's actually played a fair amount. You see, he's played 25 times, a goal, 5 assists, 2 yellow cards, no red cards, which I think is important to establish as well, because he has been a wing back, so he's been more of a defensive player as well. He's made the starting 11 88% of the time this season. He's played 80% of the minutes available, and he's been involved in 9% of the goals. So that, in my opinion, Kev, I'm not going to lie to you, for a 17-year-old, that's pretty impressive.
No, it's not bad. It's not bad. And from what I've heard about him and literally, when I seen that we've made the transfer, I went into YouTube, put into YouTube, watched a couple clips of him. It just looks like he's got good potential. Good potential. He's quick, can get a ball in. Just looks like someone who's at a level like anyone else. But to spend £40 million at this point of the season is just absolutely horrendous, man. I just don't see why we've done it. There's no point. It's not changing anything now. It doesn't matter about his potential. Like, there's going to be players that are going to break through for cheaper than this guy, than £40 million. There's going to be, if you set up a proper scouting network, you probably get a guy like Quenda cheaper, a lot cheaper if you've just done your research. So I just thought everything around it is absolutely crazy, brother. Because this is probably his first season. If you look at it, let's look at last season. Was he even playing last season for Sporting Lisbon? So let's have a look.
Yeah, let's have a look. So
it's got to be his first season if he's 17.
So he wasn't in any of the Europa League squads. Didn't play in any international friend. Oh, he played in a couple of. Oh, that's under 17, under 23 as well. Liga Ravalacao. Not in the squad for any of the Portuguese games last season. Didn't play in the Allianz Club. Didn't play in the Portuguese Cup. He played for the under 23s though. So yeah, he played every game basically for them. Very good stats though as well for the under 23s. You know, we're looking at, he's playing as a right winger apparently at that time, so that explains why he wants to be a winger as well. So he's obviously been a winger, then been converted back to a wing back. You know, good stats in that sense. Lots of assists, lots of goals as well, and it's over a consistent period, Kev, which is also important.
Yeah,
he doesn't just have a good period and dip. He's maintaining his level, generally speaking. League 3 relegation round, whatever that means. Played a fair amount of minutes in that. Not in any of the squads in Liga 3. Fucking hell, he's part of a lot of leagues though, isn't he? Jesus. I think a lot of these under 23 players, like I've seen this before. So he's played. So yeah, over the course of that season, 33 games, 11 goals, 9 assists. It's pretty impressive, Kev. I'm not going to lie to you, man. Not many senior appearances, though. Nothing.
So that was. So we've gone and spent £40 million on a player that's got nearly half a season as a professional player. Really, that's in essence.
I mean, I will say, and I've looked at plenty of these stats before, and I'll zoom in on these in a sec, guys, because I'm going to go back to the current season. I will say those stats they're impressive, mate. You know, look, I'll say it for how I see it, and I do think it's a disgrace if we're spending this kind of money and not addressing the short-term needs of this team. That is just suicidal. But you see the numbers, Kev. I see the numbers, right? And I'm talking football here. All right, we can talk business as well. We've spoken about business. We know we're fucked, financially speaking. But on a football level, this is, you know, under 23s, etc. It's pretty good, man. It's 20 GA in 33. Basically, you know, most of the time, 60% of the time is involved in a goal. And then at a more senior level, we go to the current season. This is what he's doing. So he's playing a lot of football, mate. A lot of football. And as a wing back as well, you got to remember he's not a winger. He's got, you know, he's involved in 10 goals in 43. So that's basically 1 in every 4 games he's involved in a goal, which for a wing back is not bad, mate. Like, I would take that from Cucurella. I'd take that from Gusto. We don't get that from either of those players. So Or maybe Cucurella might. I don't even think Cucurella does that. So when you look for a different dimension, and anyhow, these stats are almost relevant as well in the sense that he's playing in a position that he won't play at under Enzo Maresca. He said he's going to play as a winger. So presumably that's on the right, because he was a right winger as well. So you are looking at someone to potentially take over that spot from Sancho or Madueke or Neto as well, someone to compete with the likes of those players. Although arguably two of those players I mentioned won't be at the club in 2 years. Sancho, we might not even renew his obligation. And I think Madueke will probably end up getting sold, to be honest with you.
Yeah, wow. I think it's time for them both to show the quality at the club, and there's still quite a bit of time for them to play well and get the run of games going, because there is players there. At the start of the season, yeah, let's be real, we was looking at two best wingers in the league. You can't forget what they was doing. So there's been a big slip off. Can they get that form back now towards the end of the season? If they can, that means they might have a place in the team. If not, it's on their head. Because at the end of the day, they're getting opportunities. They're starting most games. They can't blame nothing. They can't blame not playing because they play consistently. We've got a small squad. They're getting enough time. And the levels are not there. The levels have not been apparent for 2 months consistently. The performances have not been good enough.
So
And that's what.
Yeah. I mean, but let me ask you this, Kim. Let's talk about Quenda. We'll briefly talk about him a little bit more, and then we'll move on to the other stuff, because there is, to be honest with you, Kim, there's quite a lot to go through. We've got to talk about Sancho. We've got to talk about Sanchez as well, because some news has come out regarding
No, I've heard about it.
but let's just stick to Quenda briefly. Do you not think that for a 17-year-old, this is impressive? I think it's fucking impressive, mate. Like, again, ignore like just GA. The fact that he's been involved in 43 games as well, and we just looked at his stats early, he's been involved in 80% of the minutes available. He's been involved in those minutes. He's played in different positions as well. So we've seen he's played a right mid. He's played as a left winger as well. Right mid, left wing. What is this bullshit about him being a wing back? Maybe it just says that, but he's been a wing back. You know, let's look at, for example, Champions League this season, right? He's played 73 minutes, 96, 85, 90, 87, 90, 28, 90, 84. These are big games, Kev. These are big games. And he's also been involved with games where they've got managed to get the results as well, which I do think is important, by the way. Because if he's just featuring in like losses, for example, then you almost think, well, fucking hell. Do you know what I mean? But he's clearly a player that the managers can count on, because I don't think they would do that if they couldn't count on him. So that's impressive. He's playing in the Champions League already.
Yeah,
and then you look at the Portuguese league as well. His numbers are a little bit more mixed, but generally speaking, he's playing week in, week out. In fact, in recent times, he had quite a few consecutive games. And his numbers are a little bit more spread out than they were in the under 23s. But I mean, that's bound to be the case, especially the fact that he was a wing back. I know it says that he's a left winger on here and stuff, but that's not what we've heard. So I'm going to ignore that. I mean, guys, if you know anything about it, let me know. But I think that's quite impressive, mate. I'm not going to lie to you. Kev? Where's Kev's camera gone? All right. Well, I'm going to continue without Kev. Anyway. So my opinion on Quenda is very simple, guys. I think that, honestly, I think it's a joke that we're spending this money and then we refuse to address our short-term issues in January, because if we don't make Champions League, that is a serial fuck up. The second point is that, if we don't address our issues in the summer, these transfers will come back to buy us. 12 million for a Muga or whatever it was. So that's it's mate. So you got about 53 mil, 52, 53 million, whatever it is, on young players that have no short-term future at Chelsea. You could have paid not far along that for Victor Gyökeres. You could have got that player. So that's the first thing I want to say. But listen, he could turn out to be a great player. He could turn out to be the man. What happened there, Kev? Sound, mate. Sound's not working. You're muted, Kev. Nah, I can't hear you, mate. All right, while you figure that out, Kev, I'm going to go through everything. So let's move on to the next stage, guys. Let's move on to the next stage. So we've spoken about Quenda. Personally, I'm going to give this transfer a 6.5 out of 10. A 7 if we do good business in the summer, because I do think that is relevant. Yeah, I think if we do badly, then it's more like a 5 out of 10. Like if we don't do business, it's just ridiculous. Kev, is your mic working now? Are you just testing it out? Fucking hell, guys. See what we're working with there. Let's see. Luke says, I think where it says right midfield is meant to be right wing back. I see what you mean. Yeah, it's got to be. I'm with you on that. I think you're right. Bobby says he's a good player, but is he better than Neto? It's simply not a player we need. We are doubling down on positions where there are glaring holes in the team. No, I completely agree with you, man. Completely agree with you, Bobby. But listen, if this turns out to be a good signing in the future, obviously you go back and you say, well, great business. I'm glad we did it. But when you have short-term problems, you have to address them. Kev, let me ask you this, mate. Oh, for fuck's sake, it's still not working, is it? Are you still muted, Kev? Try. Still can't hear you, mate. When you have short-term issues, let's just say this. When Kev has problems with the missus, he's got to go and take her out for dinner. He's got to fine diner, buy her flowers. If he says, I'm buying flowers for you, but you're not going to receive the flowers for 2 years, is she going to stay? No, she's leaving. Isn't that right, Kev? Can't hear you, mate. So there you go. I don't know what's happened with I don't know. I think I've caught something, guys. I am absolutely feeling horrible. Oh, I'm going to struggle for this Arsenal game as well. I'm going to that game and I'm feeling worse and worse and worse every day since probably Wednesday. I don't know if you guys are getting anything in England as well, but something's going around. Maybe it's just me. He got announced for Portugal, today's third cap. Is that senior, though? Or is that under 23? I presume it's senior. Are these kids going to develop properly when the only person they're learning from is Uncle Tossin? Oh, there you go, mate. There you go. I think that the plan with this project, now we know that they're obviously going to flip players. That's obvious. But they won't flip all of them. They're going to flip some of them. There will be players that stay at Chelsea, players that we signed when they were 20. And I think that what will happen is our spine, the way we're building our spine, is we will have those players that when they were 20, they'll stay at Chelsea until they're 30. And then that will be our spine. That will be our experience. Players that weren't experienced when they came to Chelsea, but now, after 10 years, they are. Instead of just signing an experienced player in the first place to solve that issue. I don't know if that's confirmed, S. From what I hear, we're looking at Asuku. We're in talks, but nothing's been confirmed as far as I'm aware. So that's my stance on it. Not 100% sure about that. What I will say is as well. we're going to move on from Quenda as well. I'm sick and tired of talking about him and young players for the future. Let's talk about this man, a man that I hate with a passion. Robert Sanchez. And to be honest with you, I don't really fucking like Maresca either, saying silly comments like this. Robert Sanchez is the #1 goalkeeper again. Maresca felt he needed time to rest his head. Why? This is what I want to do to my head. I'm not actually going to bang my head on the table. I want to bang my head against the table looking at this guy. Why? Why? Why are you doing this to me, Maresca? Please. Please. I just want Petrovic back. That's all I want. Oh my God. Oh my God. I can't believe it. This is what we're working with. And this is why nobody can be over the moon with Quenda's transfer. Even if it does look like good business, we would compete with United, we would compete with Bayern Munich, and we beat them to it. First of all, we paid a heavily inflated transfer price. He's worth about 10 million less than we paid for him. So we overpaid. That's the first thing. Secondly, you have other positions you need to address, goalkeeper being one of them, if you were to sell Petrovic, which could happen, if I'm being totally honest. I hope it doesn't, but I think it could. How does Maresca needs to fucking rest his head, man. Rest your head in shame. Hang your head in shame. What are you doing? We are not going to beat Arsenal with this fucking cloud. Oh my God. Anyone who disagrees with that, I don't. Do you think that Sanchez, do you agree with that decision? Like, let me know in the chat if you agree with the decision to bring Sanchez as the #1. And if so, give me a logical reason. Like, break it down to me. If you just say, yeah, I think it's the right decision, I'll be like, okay, why? Why? I need some sense, because I'm not fucking seeing any sense. It's such a fucking joke. Honestly, I don't know what to say about this fucking guy. I'm not a fan of Maresca. I'm really not. I'm not a fan of him. I want to support him. I want to. I'm not anti-Maresca. I don't support this fucking goalkeeper. I don't support this flip-flop mentality. Rest your head. He said he needed to rest his head, and then he played him against Brighton. What the fuck are you on about? You fucking idiot. Let's just fucking understand something, all right? Please let me for those of you who, oh God. Look at this, guys. Please look at this. We're going to watch a 2-minute video together, and it's important. Like, I'm not even hating on this guy, but it's fucking shocking. And we're going to have sound as well. Why not? Let's listen to what this guy has to say.
Robert Sanchez is the worst Chelsea goalkeeper in history. Let's take a look at all his mistakes in a Chelsea shirt so far. We'll start with his performance against Brighton. With the score at 0-0, Sanchez decided to charge out of his goal to claim a ball. He had no chance of winning. I mean, what on earth? Look how far off his line he was. In the same game, Sanchez's horrendous passing was on full display. Luckily for him, Cole Palmer bailed Chelsea out by scoring 4 goals, securing a 4-2 victory. Here's another instance. With the game deadlocked at 0-0, Sanchez decided to award Manchester United a penalty. The game ended 1-1. Arsenal came to the bridge and scored first through some questionable near-post goalkeeping from Sanchez. Luckily for him, Neto equalised and Chelsea secured a point. December brought Tottenham, and oh boy, what a start. Spurs were 2-0 up within 11 minutes, and while we can't blame Sanchez for everything, his positioning and decision-making certainly didn't help. Chelsea eventually clawed their way back into the game and won 4-3. But lads, it's Tottenham. There were whispers of Chelsea being in a title race before Boxing Day. But the title race talks quickly evaporated once Fulham came to the bridge and won 2-1 with 2 late goals. Unsurprisingly, Sanchez played a role in Chelsea's late collapse. Then there was Wolves, where Sanchez's slippery hands turned a routine save into an equaliser for the opposition. Chelsea still won 3-1, but Sanchez really does seem to enjoy making things harder than they need to be. Even though this is from last season, this one might just take the cake. With Chelsea chasing an equaliser, Sanchez thought it was a good idea to charge up the pitch for a late corner. Chaos ensued, and Brentford countered, adding a second goal into an empty net. Comedy gold for neutrals. And most recently, the football world got to see the fraud that is Robert Sanchez. He was at fault for 2 of the goals against Man City.
Well, the lob's on. Where's Sanchez? Haaland will score!
Man, oh man, Sanchez. At this point, I understand it now. I see why Chelsea fans are frustrated. They spent £1 billion and still have the worst keeper in the league. If you like this video, then you'll love to see...
Worst keeper in the league, guys. I'm not even. Nah. I'm done. You know, I think that the Quenda news was quite nice in a way. It's quite refreshing. Sort of look at it and I'm like, okay, we can talk about this. This is, you know, we're not addressing our short-term needs, but it's a new player, blah, blah, blah. Sanchez. It's just the same old story. It's like that girlfriend that, you know, you've got a girlfriend or whatever, you're in high school, and let's just say that, I'm not saying you are, let's just say you're a bit of a simp, okay? And you love your girlfriend so much, you buy her flowers, you take her on dates, you get her presents, you want to play video games with the boys, you want to watch the football. She says, no, you got to stay with me, and you actually do it. And you realize that she cheated on you. She cheated on you. You confront her about it. She says, listen, I'm sorry. It was a mistake. I've learned from my mistake. It's not going to happen again. You move on. She cheats again. She didn't just kiss this guy now. All right, let's keep it PG. She cheated. Sanchez keeps cheating on Chelsea. Just like some girls have their legs, Sanchez keeps the goal. Score, please, score. Fucking score, please. Oh, mate. Bit of a weird analogy. You get the point. I don't really know what else to say about this guy. I really don't know what else to say. I mean, I'd probably react with the same energy as what Lewis did. This is how Lewis responded when that information came out. And I'll probably respond with the same sort of face. There is no positives from seeing Robert Sanchez back in goal. I'm sorry. There is no positives. Now, some people will go, well, at least he's more reliable than Jorgensen. How do you know? How do you fucking know? Jorgensen was given a half a chance, not even a proper chance. You have to compare the treatment of Robert Sanchez to Jorgensen, and for anyone to say that that treatment is even comparable, it's just wrong. It's an outright lie. Jorgensen has been given enough responsibility in the Conference League to show that, listen, it's not been a complete waste of a season for him, but ultimately you want to be the Premier League goalkeeper, don't you? You want to play in those Premier League games. And I think that, yeah, Jorgensen had some bad games. What? And Sanchez didn't. I needed to see more. I need to see more from Jorgensen to really judge. But that's where we are, guys. That is where we are at the moment. So there's my thoughts on Robert Sanchez. Not very happy about that decision at all. That just reiterates the reason why I don't like Maresca. And I've said after Man City, for example, the guy's going to fucking cost him his job. He's going to cost him his fucking job because the goalkeeper is useless. And I said this after the Brighton game. I don't know how. How can you keep playing this bloody goalkeeper? How can you keep doing it? How? So that's where we're at, guys. That's where we're at. So yeah, you know what? Enough on that. Let's move on, shall we? Let's move on. Let's talk about Jadon Sancho. Now, there's been some news circulating about Jadon Sancho, which is surprising to some people, that there is actually a chance Chelsea will not sign Jadon Sancho at the end of his loan period. We thought there was an obligation to buy, and technically there is. But there's also an option to not take on Jadon Sancho, but in return we'd have to pay Man United a fee, which I think is around £5 million. So if we were to pay that fee, don't quote me on that fee, I think it's around that number. But if we were to pay that amount, then that would mean that he could go back to United and we don't have to worry about Jadon Sancho again. Now, if I'm being totally honest, I haven't got a problem keeping Sancho. I actually don't have an issue with it. I think he's a good squad player to have. I think on the right wage, a bit like João Felix, it's a good player. When you look at Sancho, he has a lot of positives to his game. He also has quite a few negatives as well, some things that go against him. His mentality is not great. His leadership qualities aren't there. He's not a fighter. He's not a physical player. And he's not someone that you can count him week on week. But he does have technical ability. He's good at playing in a system that allows his team to have the ball. He's good at playing in that system. And I think that he's a good link-up player as well. I think he's good at linking up with players around him. If players around him are doing things, and he will link up with them. A bit like, how do I describe it? I'm trying to think of another player. I can't think of another winger off the top of my head. But like when we had overlapping runs, when we had players having more movement around Jadon Sancho, we saw him perform to a better level. And we've seen a more static Chelsea side, a team that aren't willing to make those runs, a team that more passive, more safe, more conservative. And that hasn't benefited his game at all. He needs movement around him. I almost think he needs chaos to an extent, because chaos, I think that brings the best out of a player with a lot of elegance, which is what he has. But it's just too safe right now, far too safe. And I wasn't impressed with his performance yesterday against Copenhagen by any means whatsoever. I thought he was poor, and he has been poor. In fact, if we look at what he's done this season so far, I mean, I've defended Jadon Sancho, actually. I really have. but his it's not just about GA, guys. It's not just about that. This is just Conference League stats. Let's go current season. That's what we're really looking for. Current season. So he's been involved in a fair amount of games. He's been involved in 28. But it is underwhelming. I have to admit, it's a lot more underwhelming than I expected. You know, you've got a guy with 28 performances. He kick-started off really well. 6 assists, 2 goals. One of those was amazing. Amazing goal against Tottenham. Actually, to be fair, you know, some of those minutes as well are United as well. The I don't know if that's the FA Cup with us or the Community Shield with United. I think that was. Yeah. So this is what he's done in the Conference League for Chelsea. Played 90 against Heidenheim. He was probably the man of the match, or one of them, alongside Jorgensen, who was probably my man of the match, actually. Got 2 assists in that game. He's brilliant. And then he played a couple of others as well. In the Premier League, he had a great start to life. 3 assists in 3 games, 45 minutes, 57, 71. Now, as soon as he gets integrated into that team, you think, okay, cool, we can count on this boy. You're always going to have a couple of games where you don't necessarily play to that level. He was out for United, he was out for Arsenal with a small injury. He was on the bench against Newcastle. And then he came back for Leicester, starting properly against Villa. Southampton got an assist. Tottenham got Southampton got a goal, sorry. Tottenham got a goal as well. And then look, it's not great, guys. An assist against Crystal Palace, which was a very good assist. And that is it. We are not seeing anything else from this guy. There is no lack of minutes being given to Jadon Sancho. Let's just look at when the drought started. And I mean, Crystal Palace doesn't really end the drought, if I'm totally honest, but it's something. You got 90, 90, 90, 25, 86, 90, 28, 73, 52, 69, 14, 68, 90. He's playing enough minutes, guys. He really is. And he's just not. Yeah, he's not doing enough. He started 15 games and he was substituted in 7. It's enough to get more than what you've been involved in. So 22 games that you've been involved in, and you're looking at 28 games, sorry, and it's 8 GA. It's not really, and also if this was Pedro Neto, and I don't know what Pedro Neto's stats are like compared to Sancho, we can absolutely have a look at that. I wouldn't have as much of a problem with it because of what Neto does off the ball and how he makes life easier for his teammates. Sancho doesn't do those things. So you actually expect more from the other end of the pitch with Sancho. When you've got Neto, for example, we have a look at him now. We look at the current season. So Neto's actually played more games. He's not many more. I mean, he's played about 5 more games. And he's got, what did Sancho have? 8 GA. And Neto's got 12 GA. So, look, still not the best numbers that you want to see from a winger. But for what Neto offers, you can accept it more so than you could with Sancho. I have no idea. I mean, if we get Leeds as goalkeeper, we are finished because he's not great either. He makes loads of confusion that he's not a great goalkeeper. Do you think Poch is better than Maresca? Big up, by the way. Listen, I'm going to leave until the end of the season to really give my opinion on that. My opinion is that I honestly don't think that Maresca would have had a better season than Pochettino with the squad that we had last season. I think Poch was a good manager to have last year. With a team that had more familiarity, more chemistry, more momentum from the previous season we had under Poch coming into this one, I think Maresca's had an easier job, to be totally honest with you. I think it's been easier for him to keep players happy. I think it's been easier for him to rotate and easier to sharpen up players as well. Because if we had the Conference League last season, I think that would have been a massive plus. Because you have those players who don't get the minutes in the Prem, but they can get those minutes in the Conference League, and that boosts their confidence, and then they can break into the Premier League side. We didn't have that last year. I think that Poch's man management is fucking way better than Maresca's. I think Maresca's man management has been crap for me, my opinion. He hasn't kept a number of players happy. He didn't keep Felix happy. He didn't keep Vega happy. A number of players. He's not keeping Dewsbury Hall happy. Not that Dewsbury Hall's the best thing, but it's like, I don't know. I just don't feel like I feel like the whole squad need to buy into what you're doing. And I don't see that the whole squad are doing that. So that's my opinion. But I'll answer that question at the end of the season. So, yeah, I mean, you look at Neto's stats, for example, and I think that Neto's proving his worth in different ways apart from GA. Sancho isn't. So you would say that Sancho needs to do a little bit more. Also, we've had a couple of updates from Oleina as well. If you don't know who Oleina is, plays for Nottingham Forest. He also does a few media things as well. He said that Callum Hudson-Odoi was up there with the best Cobham talent, but honestly, Loftus-Cheek, bro, or maybe even Josh McEachran as well. We never saw Josh McEachran play too much, but Loftus-Cheek, I mean, we saw plenty of him. Big fan of Loftus-Cheek as well. I think he would be a great player for Chelsea right now, if I'm honest. He would have been a good one for us. The best player that he played with was Eden Hazard. God-given, no words. He was going past you if he wanted to go past you. It didn't matter how quick or how strong you were. So that's what Oleina had to say. So he's saying, yeah, we had a great youth system. We had obviously a great player with Hazard. Maresca is way better than Poch. His CV does not prove that. So if we go in by CV and career history, I think that you would find that's not right. Well, at least Poch is exciting at times during time of the season, with Maresca still leaking goals and super boring football. That's a big factor for me as well, guys. I do think that Pochettino's brand of football was really exciting. Like, not every single game, fair enough, but like, I saw some of the best games of football last year. Some of the best. 4-3 against United was the best game I've ever been to. Like, hands down. On top of some just good performance all around. City away was fun. City at home, 4-4. We came back in that game. Liverpool at home was entertaining, even though we lost. We struggled in some of the other games. United away and Liverpool away. Arsenal away was horrible. So there you go. I think that Esteban will be the next Hazard type player, not scared of 1v1s. We do need more players that can do 1v1s, but we've had Madueke as well. You got to have a manager who supports it as well. So I do think that that's on Maresca as well, but definitely 1v1s. I mean, that's becoming a real theme, the wingers having to take players on like that. Running back and forth, that's not sustainable. Well, instead of running back and forth, just pass sideways and backwards. There you go. That's your solution. But yeah, guys, that's where we are at the moment. So just a little roundup on the current state of the club. Obviously, Chelsea have signed Quenda for £40 million from Sporting Lisbon. No add-ons, no additional fees on top of that. No sell-on clause either. We beat United to that signing. We beat Bayern Munich as well to that signing. Maresca was a big part of that decision. Because Quenda wants to play as a winger, not a wing back, which he has been playing as recently. And that was a key factor in him joining the club. This is not a short-term deal. This is something that's going to happen in 2 years. So we won't see him in a Chelsea shirt until 2026 in terms of that season. Yeah, we're going to go into the next current couple of windows, hoping for some short-term boosters, but we haven't had any yet. On top of that, Sanchez is back as our number one, as horrible as it is to say. That is what Maresca wants to do. And there's a chance that Jadon Sancho will not stay at Chelsea. So that's where we are at the moment. I mean, I can't say I agree with everything that's happening, but there's no shortage of news. We're certainly keeping things moving at Chelsea, and it's not really a quiet day in that sense. Smash the like button if you haven't already. Really appreciate you all watching. Thanks for jumping on the stream, and we'll catch up tomorrow. There will be a lunchtime stream tomorrow at 1 o'clock. All the best, guys, and we will catch up very, very soon.